Hello, everyone. I'm Kathy Maher. I'm the director of the Barnum Museum here in downtown Bridgeport, and I want to thank you all so much for watching our YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, join us by subscribing and do hit the thumbs up button as we proceed through this program and let us know how you feel about the things that we're going to be talking about. We are bringing you this new series on our channel called Instructive Entertainment. Interestingly, instructive entertainment was P.T. Barnum's mission for his American Museum dating all the way back to the 1840s and 1850s. So we're kind of excited to be continuing his museum's goal and objective through programming, but on a very modern platform. I also want to do a special thank you. I want to thank the City of Bridgeport, our home, People's United Community Foundation, and Connecticut Humanities. All of these organizations really supported our 2022 virtual program grants, and we are truly grateful. We thought it would be important to share with you the why museums do what they do. Museums all over the planet have very serious responsibilities that they uphold, and they're not really commonly known in the public, and it's important to bring that to you as a discussion point as well. Now, the Barnum Museum, absolutely, our job is to preserve and examine and interpret the history and the heritage of the 19th century and P.T. Barnum's genre within that time. But it is also enormously responsible that we look to our community and how we're serving the members of our community, whether it's you here on YouTube or our community in Bridgeport. Now, museums, all museums are in the service industry. That is what we do. That is our commitment. That is our pledge. And interestingly, our service has to change. A museum is a reflection of the community that we serve. It is a reflection of our moment in time. What is the social concern at the moment? Today, it's been COVID, of course. And who is in need? How do we reach people that we wouldn't otherwise think is our audience, think that could be enriched by what we can do? So how do we evolve and rise to meet the needs at hand? So now, all that said, we thought this was the perfect moment to introduce you to one of the state of Connecticut's arts and cultural champions and leaders, David Green. He is the executive director of the Cultural Alliance of Fairfield County. And for our guests from afar, Fairfield County is a stone's throw from New York City. We're barely an hour out of New York City. We're about 2.5 hours from Boston. So that's where we fit in the geography of the United States. But David here is probably one of the greatest conveners I've ever met. He is a powerful voice for our region's arts and culture. His impressive bio and contact information is in the description below. So please do look there and do not hesitate to reach out to him with any questions or comments you have, and certainly to us as well. But we're happy to share ideas. Now, the last couple of years, of course, have demonstrated the resilience of the museum industry, but it has also demonstrated the incredible skill and unyielding determination David has to help our colleague organizations across our region and help us all find ways that we can best maneuver these challenging times. So enough about that. Let me bring David to the table. David, welcome to the Barnum Museum YouTube channel. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and especially to be here on your inaugural program. That's a heavy weight to bear, but I'm very happy to be here.
I have no doubt you will be the champion of the YouTube instructive entertainment as well. So before we begin, I mean, communities across the world have their own arts councils. They all, look different, they work differently. And you have really been, as I said, the great incubator for so many of us, our leaders. I mean, I've never had the opportunity to talk to some of our colleagues from down in Stamford's about 45 minutes away. I mean, just on such a regular basis. And I'm so grateful for that. So can you just tell everybody a little bit about the Cultural Alliance, what you do, what is your objective, and just your insights, how you listen to all of us and how you shake us all together so we all come out with a unified voice?
So where to begin? Well, we're part of the infrastructure of the arts and culture in Connecticut, and we're actually one of 8 organizations, cultural alliances, regional arts councils around the state that work directly with the Office of the Arts, and also with Connecticut Humanities. And we are kind of the in-between people between the Office of the Arts and Connecticut Humanities that do a lot of the funding of organizations and the organizations on the ground. So we cover 15 towns of coastal Fairfield County, from Greenwich in the southwest up to Shelton in the northeast. Many of them do have local arts councils. In fact, where there is an local arts council, we feel we are in much better contact with the goings on of each town. So an arts council like Greenwich or Norwalk or Westport, sort of they are to us as we are to the Office of the Arts. And another important thing to remember is that, of course, Connecticut has no county government. We are in a sea of little city states where each town, each city seems to insist on, reifying its borders and trying to get the towns to work together, to get people to move around is one of our missions, really, to give more of a regional sense of how we are all connected. We are a membership organization, so people sign up with us, very modest fees. Most are around $50, $50 to $150 is the average. And so we have around 550 members. Half of them are individual artists, and half of them are cultural nonprofits with about 50 creative businesses. So another of our goals is really to network and to connect. The key for me is I feel that I'm a natural networker. I feel that when you connect, the more you connect people and organizations, the more energy you release. It's like a chemical experiment. You connect 3 or 4 organizations and light a match and see what happens. And so we're always delighted to see collaboration, organizations working together, organizations and artists working together, organizations and artists in different towns working together. That's really the name of the game.
That's a great point. And while you were talking too, you have an interesting challenge as well, because Fairfield County, from its point in Greenwich all the way to Stratford, has got such an extraordinary diverse economic composition. You have Greenwich, that whole area being one of the wealthiest communities in the country. And Bridgeport in Stratford.
Yes, but even within a community, there are so many pockets. One of the most mind-opening documents you can look at is the Index to Well-Being that Data Haven produces. I think almost an annual or a biannual survey of the economic, educational, social, racial differences across this region. And I remember being in a meeting, and one of the most astonishing realizations that the creators of that document came to was how there are all these pockets of great inequity, pockets of poverty, pockets of educational negativity, deserts. We talk about food deserts. There are educational deserts. There are apparently maybe to us cultural deserts. So part of And nationally, Fairfield County has been cited as the most inequitable county in the country, using all of these different factors. So that is increasingly, a lot of this, of course, was highlighted in 2020 with the multiple crises coming together, the COVID hitting, the Black Lives Matter, the death of Floyd, and just highlighting the sense of great inequity. So we think arts and culture is a kind of lingua franca. Everybody enjoys cultural expression, self-expression, hearing others express themselves in dance, in theater, in words, in color. So the arts and culture, for me, are a wonderful vehicle for people to be able to express themselves. But these inequities are often dividing people. There are great barriers for people to be able to express themselves, to have access to resources. Mm-hmm. So we've been in existence since 2008. And, we've been riding along with all of the big cultural organizations, but realizing that increasingly there are pockets of cultural activity that we don't know about. And we talked a lot about developing a program of sort of cultural ambassadors, people who could go out into the nooks and crannies of coastal Fairfield County to tell everybody about the Cultural Alliance. But especially since 2020, we realized that that was absolutely back to front, that we need to find people out there who are doing work, who are engaging in cultural life that we don't know about, and to reach out to them and embrace and include them in what we do. So we're actually now we're raising some money not for ambassadors, but for what we're calling culture connectors. Connecting is really the DNA of what we do, and these culture connectors will reach out and bring people heretofore unknown to so many of us, and hopefully enrich and diversify our cultural life, our cultural infrastructure. So that's our current.
Well, it goes that expression I use all the time. All boats rise with the tide.
Yes.
And even for the Barnum Museum, which is really one of the state's bigger organizations, it's got an iconic name attached to it. People know the Barnum. The building itself is so iconic. But boy, oh boy, we can't do this alone. Exactly. I need you. Exactly. I need to know as we approach closer and closer to reopening the museum with the new experiences, I need to know that travelers on I-95 can stop at the Bruce Museum or the Aquarium or the zoo, that there's opportunity here for enrichment. And with a program like that, it's helping certainly our regional community, but that's going to help us take that even a level higher with national tourism.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that becomes an economic driver right there.
Enriching and engaging what you do, like the Maritime Aquarium in Norwalk. Okay, it's an aquarium, but they are so interested in every way that humans express their connection to the ocean. So the Maritime Aquarium has a long, detailed program of collaboration with the Norwalk Symphony. I just heard that the New Paradigm Theatre, which is a traveling theatre around these areas, is doing a season on, I think, The Little Mermaid. So, we are encouraging and introducing organizations to one another, because I believe everybody is much richer the more they know about how everything is connected.
And you can find those crossroads if you just brush off the surface. You can always find those crossroads, because interestingly, you mentioned the aquarium. P.T. Barnum actually established the first aquarium in this country in 1856. He copied your hometown, London's
Yeah.
Aquarium, and he opened it in New York City in 1856. So Connecticut owns, you know, the founding of the American science industry that we know as the celebrated aquarium. So, you know, we're ready to go with those stories, and I am thrilled, you know, when people come to the Barnum Museum. It's like, you can't leave Fairfield County without stopping, you know, in Norwalk, you know, and enjoying a visit to the aquarium. So finding those wonderful ways to collaborate, to partner is brilliant, and it works for everyone.
So I should say also that actually I didn't mention, probably our core product for the public is our website, FC Buzz Events.
Yes.
Because all of our members post their events directly onto our website. So this website is the single best, most comprehensive source for knowing what's going on. If you want to see if there's any dance happening in Stamford or any poetry in Westport, go to our website and you can look it up by date, by category. That's kind of the core service for our members, is that we help to connect their events to a much broader audience, and then to connect them one to another. And beyond that, we do spend a lot of time on what we call professional development, you know, bringing the organizations together, bringing all the executive directors together, bringing all the historical societies together, and so on, in ways that, as you said before, you otherwise wouldn't get to meet. And then beyond that is so it's really a series of these concentric circles. We focus on our member events. We then, around that, focus on professional development of our members. And then beyond that, we have a much broader advocacy circle in which we're listening to the needs of our members and representing them to the wider world of chambers of commerce, Rotary clubs, municipalities, legislators, so that they know what the issues and concerns of our community are. Yeah. And so we work with the Connecticut Arts Alliance, which is a very active advocacy organization representing concerns of arts organizations across the whole state. But of course, we focus on our particular area.
Right. And, you know, and not to, you know, sell you short at all. I have to tell everybody how difficult it is to do this. This is truly corralling cats. Everybody's busy. I mean, how many times, you know, you reached out to me. When I see your name pop in my box, I know I got to respond, because David's like, "Are you out there?" It's relentless, because you have to be. Everybody is so overwhelmed, particularly these last couple of years, with trying to navigate COVID. What's going on in your own organizations now? Do you have staff to keep things moving forward? And so it's really tough. But right away, when COVID really was ramping up, and, you know, back in March 2020, we thought, it's like, oh my God, we got to close for 2 weeks. Weren't we adorable? You know, so whoever would have guessed. But you started getting the group together. You started working with Lee Shapiro up at the state.
We had weekly community calls for people, because you're right, people didn't know what to do. What's going on? What's out there? How do we get a PPP? What's an EIDL? What was your experience with the bank? Which bank do you go with? So, you know, I say that I'm not the repository of wisdom. It's the network that's the repository of wisdom. And what we do is connect the nodes together. I mean, I really believe in the wisdom of the network. And I think people learned so much from each other and from each other's experience. And it's that collective that we need to encourage. And
yes, as a recipient, absolutely. Hearing what the theater was going through, or the Danbury Arts Organization was, everybody had a nugget that they were able to share, or something that they were able to acquire and use as a tool to get that darn PPP, you know. to get a bank to take their application. For us, it was the challenge with the shuttered venues, the federal grants that the Barnum Museum wasn't eligible for, because we don't have fixed seating. I had a board member that wanted to come with a drill and just drill some chairs to the floor. I mean, just the frustrations. But in that,
so I would say it's as you know, it's a very perplexing, difficult, but potentially revolutionary period, I think, in terms of funding and the funding landscape. I mean, for a moment, there was no money, nothing coming in. Surprisingly, we had very, very few of our members collapse. We had one member that I know just closed down.
Yeah.
But people, kept going, found ways. It was indeed very resilient group of people resorting to all kinds of creative ways of getting by, producing digital productions, figuring out ways in which you could make money online. And now we've had waves of funding, and I think we have to figure out what is equitable in that funding landscape, what needs to change, how does funding need to change. I mean, I think it's a very interesting time. I remember we had a funding summit 2, 3, or 4 years ago. I know you were one of the moderators of that, but I feel we need a whole new funding summit now, because the landscape has really shifted.
Completely different from 3 years ago. And that's okay. But I certainly have seen my colleagues rise to this. I mean, incredible bravery, as you were just saying, coming up with innovative programming. And it was all based on everybody that works in this industry is part of their soul. Your organization, it's just not a job that you go to and you fulfill. You become part of the landscape and the culture of that organization. And the desire to keep programming going, to be in service to who are the people that you serve. It's like, we can't let them down. So unlike just a big corporation, it's like, all right, everybody go home. There was no going home. There was no break. And it hasn't let up. It truly hasn't let up. Hence, we're here on a platform I never even considered 2 years ago, right? And now we're closing in on 150,000 views and 1,500 subscribers. So welcome. We're thrilled. So COVID did have those unexpected consequences, to take us to a new level. And I'm so impressed by how brave and how courageous and how innovative people have been to keep themselves going. And so for you've seen everybody. What is your I don't want to single anybody out in particular, but what's inspired you through this last couple of years with just talking to everybody and seeing the courageous ways people have, organizations have moved forward?
Well, I mean, this is a creative set of people, and I was impressed by the creativity. People dreaming up all new ways of doing things and of working together. Also, the insistence in learning new skills, in learning new ways, being open to do things in different ways, learning, how to produce a digital program. And as I said, I think it emphasized the value of collaboration, of being able to share different skills, different skill sets, and coming together in that way.
Yeah, I think one of the it happened all over the country, but like theaters that took the drive-in theater model. Remember the drive-in movies? Right. Taking that on the road. Hopefully that comes back this summer, because I just thought that was darn fun. Right. It was creative. It was clever. It was fun. It's outside. There's a comfort level, and the program is going out. You're delivering to your community, and it's a win. It was a win-win for everybody.
Right.
And I just thought
I was just talking we have a monthly radio show on WPKN. I was just talking to 3 arts councils, and the Greenwich Arts Council has this, phenomenal building, very impressive building, the old City Hall, in which it actually hosts a number of other arts organizations. But it discovered that it has a little green out the front that it's kind of ignored. And suddenly during COVID, this was perhaps the most valuable piece of property that they had, because they now could do all kinds of outdoor programs, outdoor art shows, outdoor dance, concerts, music. So I think there was a big rediscovery of being able to do things outside. Outdoors. Yeah.
And for the Barnum Museum, we're an urban museum, so we only have the footprint that we sit on. So we didn't quite have that, but I just was so excited to see so many organizations that could really utilize, the natural environment, and be created with theater, with art. It's just like, bravo, everyone.
Right. It was interesting. You've been involved in this on the statewide level. It was interesting too over this period to see how arts, culture, and tourism came together. I mean, there's always been a little bit of a misunderstanding or a battle between the tourism industry and arts and culture. We, of course, would like to say there would not be much of a tourism industry in Connecticut if there was no cultural industry.
Right.
But I think partly the crisis galvanized this new legislative caucus, the Arts, Culture, and Tourism Caucus. And I think that's doing great work. Legislators increasingly understand how arts and culture are an economic driver. But I have to say that as we've been, blowing that horn now for many years and producing studies and showing the statistics, I have to say that during this period, it was our contribution to mental health and spiritual well-being that people were also appreciating, that arts and culture really are critical to our well-being on so many different levels, economic, certainly, but also for our mental well-being and spiritual well-being.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. I think that is really extremely relevant as people were really in their homes, on the safety of their homes. But how do you release, how do you find something that's going to take you away from this very confusing time? And you're right, we've been entrenched in that tourism, arts, culture, and at historic preservation. How do these things come together? And the current Connecticut administration, Governor Lamont, did convene Arts, Culture, and Tourism Exploratory Group, from his early election days, and that group has stayed together. It did get a lot done. It created a voice that was being heard in Hartford. And certainly in our regions, it's called the MetroCog region. It's a city of government, and we're part of that. It is reflected in the comprehensive strategy for our region: arts, culture, leisure, and tourism. So, and it is recognized as a contributing industry sector economically.
I think we should call out Commissioner David Lehman, who is the head of the Department of Economic and Community Development, and arts and culture is really part of that organizational structure in the state of Connecticut. And I think he really got that arts and culture were an important thing to look up, were an important component of the economy to look after.
Agreed.
And, I understand that his relationships with the heads, Liz Shapiro, heads of Connecticut Office of the Arts, and Jason Mancini at Connecticut Humanities was very strong, and that they worked really hard together. And as a result, Connecticut Humanities has just distributed $16 million to arts and cultural institutions across the state, which, came through the state government. It was federal money, but it was allocated by state government. So we have a lot to be grateful to the governor, to the commissioner, and to our legislators for that.
Absolutely, and their dedication. They rolled that out before the holidays, so that was personal, commitment to make sure that was going to happen for everybody before the fiscal year ended. So thanks to everybody who did that, made that happen for everyone. But you're right. I think Connecticut is very lucky. I sit on the Museum and Science Center committee for the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. It's called IAPA. It's been around since 1919, so it's almost as old as AAM, American Alliance of Museums. But it really, museums are attractions, zoos are attractions, aquariums are attractions. So we're a big part of this. So I get on calls with colleagues from all over North America, so Canada, all over the United States. And it inspires me that when I'm talking to my cultural colleagues, Connecticut is really at the forefront of thinking about diversity and equity, welcoming everybody. How do we do better? How are we having these conversations? And you, David, of course, are putting a voice to this, helping us all recognize this as part of the culture of every institution that we do. How do we bring more people in as employees, as well as community members? How do we take some of our underserved communities and say, a museum is a place for you?
Right.
You feel like you're a part of this. And, these, again, during, the George Floyd situation in this country, we've leaned into this. We can't be afraid of these conversations anymore. And I'm so grateful to you for convening. So now we're really having discussions on how we take, this grave concern and how do we do better, together. So thank you for that. But if you want to talk about that committee a little bit, there was just a fantastic meeting this week.
Right. Yes, it was one of our quarterly executive directors network meetings, and we focused on sharing experiences with diversity, equity, and inclusion training that different organizations have ventured into. And I think it was a great example of how we had Stanford Symphony, the Bruce Museum, and Westport Country Playhouse, three very different institutions, speaking about their experience over the last year and a half, training board and staff, and each one of them was so different. And we learned so much from each one of them, and we're definitely going to be using that to put together some kind of outline guide to help people in terms of best practices for DEI training in the future. But something like that is constant. It's an example of how you have to keep talking and reporting into each other about how you're doing, and getting feedback from colleagues is obviously key to making what you do more effective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, like, again, for the Barnum Museum, as we're rolling to open, we're, in the process of designing the guest experience for the museum. Construction is starting outside. It's like, I keep saying, it's like, we're like 130-year-old, startup business, right? So we have the opportunity to take all of these great ideas and design them for our institution, and then and launch, relaunch the museum back to an active, site with a robust, mindful operation that embraces all of these issues. And and a year from now and 2 years from now, again, it's going to change and we evolve and we grow with it. But if we stay connected, we're all rolling together.
Yep, absolutely.
So with that, thank you so much. We've been talking for about half an hour now, but if you had any last thoughts, I'll just let you say a few things, but do know that I and the Barnum Museum is a big fan of the Cultural Alliance and ever grateful for everything that you do for all of us in Fairfield.
We're here to serve people. We believe in the power of the network. As I said, we're open to suggestions for how we can do things better, differently. We are working very hard to be as inclusive as we can, and we're open open to all suggestions.
David, I want to thank you again so very, very much for being our, inaugural instructive entertainment guest. And I'm sure you'll come back. And I know I'm going to see you on many more Zooms throughout this year and the years to come. So thank you so much.
It's a great pleasure being here. Thank you very much, Kathy.
Thank you.